Hello, everybody. I'm back to talk about the last two episodes of Beyond the Gates from yesterday. And today, we're going to start with yesterday's episode, where I think the biggest thing that happened yesterday was kind of the dueling interviews on television between Bill and Dani. With what was supposed to be an interview for Nicole, of course, kind of got turned into about Dani because she's been causing so much havoc lately with bringing a gun to her ex's wedding and all. Bill thought that might happen and Dani would get some airtime. He thought it was going to be an interview for Dani and that they were just saying it was for Nicole. But he got defensive and called for his own press conference. They were on dueling channels. We got to see the have-nots of the show. Leslie, Mona, and Ashley's mother at Orphe Jean's, the restaurant diner that they all like to eat at. Watching it all transpire on TV, flipping back and forth between them. I thought the directing and editing in this little duel part of the episode was really good. I also liked what Bill had to say about Haley, that she is mentally deteriorating, which is something I've been saying since this show started, that Dani is unhinged, which is why I couldn't compare her to Erica Kane anymore. Because while eventually Erica Kane had her unhinged moments, you know, she was a narcissist similar to Dani, but Erica at least put herself first in different ways. Whereas Dani, we continue to see her kind of put Bill first in her life. She kind of defines her life by Bill, which is really pathetic, but to me also keeps her more of a well-rounded character rather than just always an over-the-top mess. The other interesting thing to me about Bill saying that Dani is mentally deteriorating is the fact that Bill himself is also crazy. He is obsessed with Dani, and we continue to see that. Haley didn't want this to be a press conference because she just wants to go on her honeymoon with her new husband. But she's seeing that Bill continues to put a lot of his energy into Dani, or getting revenge on Dani, talking about Dani. And that's kind of what this press conference is all about. But to make matters worse, by the end of yesterday's episode, Bill and Haley are about to go on their honeymoon, and what's Bill doing? Looking up, well, he's basically Googling Dani, reading interviews about her interview. So to say that Bill is not obsessed would be a lie. He's definitely obsessed. And I've had comments over my last video. I believe Kaiwan was leaving a comment about how Bill likes having both women in his life, always wants a wife and a side piece. And I can't disagree with that. That does seem to be something Bill wants with this whole Dani and Haley dynamic. And Dani herself is clearly still obsessed with getting Bill back, because how yesterday's episode ended was looking like she's about to head off to, I don't remember where they're going, if it's Italy for the honeymoon, but I think Dani's heading there too to ruin Bill and Haley's honeymoon. Unfortunately, that was not on Wednesday's episode. I would say that yesterday was definitely the better episode. Not that Wednesday's episode was bad necessarily, but today's episode was boring. Before we get to today's episode, there was more that happened yesterday that I do want to talk about. Another highlight for me is the Kat and Chelsea cousin relationship. I've already talked about how I like the Chelsea story, that she's not afraid to be sexual, not afraid of her sexuality, exploring both of those things, and that Kat, being a part of that generation too, just accepts it and is not surprised by it, that Chelsea doesn't like labels, and that even though it's not something Kat wants, Kat seems to want her own stable relationship. In fact, I believe she said she wants to be Michelle and find her Brock, which does seem to be Kat's MO. And we are starting to tease Thomas and Kat more. They have each other's number. They're taking that coupling slowly, though. But I just like that Kat and Chelsea both being from that age group, are very close cousins. And I kind of wish they both got more screen time because they are far more interesting than some of these other people, like, say, Ashley and Derek, and even Andre when Andre's in Ashley's orbit. So I would like to see more Kat and Chelsea, and just more Kat in general, because as much as her character gets on my nerves when she's being an uppity bitch to Eva, she's one of the better actresses on the show, in my opinion, the actress that plays Kat. Also yesterday, Jacob and Naomi still had problems after Jacob ended arresting Dani, which was pretty stupid of Jacob to be the arresting officer after they just had a conversation about how he would choose the family over his job. But that didn't happen. I mean, by the end of the episode, Naomi and Jacob worked that out, which they should have, because I didn't like the fighting in the first place. I'm disappointed in the way they wrote Naomi, because when the show started, I really was hoping that Naomi would be like the logical thinker in the Dupree family, because all of the Duprees, we see them always making excuses for Dani and just placating her, and they just all want to kind of take the easy way out by paying someone off or using their influence to get out of things. I was hoping Naomi was going to be more of a logical, more down-to-earth hero type character. After yesterday's episode, she's also like the rest of the family, which is disappointing, because I would like someone in the family that's a blood relative to be that way. But we're not getting that thus far. Jacob also got a new partner, an older guy who he was looking forward to partnering up with, but he seems like a hard ass. I'm not sure if they're going further that he's just going to be a dirty cop. Was kind of what I got from it, or if he's just a cop that is going to be rough around the edges, has his own style. Jacob talked about how he would be the bad cop to Jacob's good cop, which could mean dirty cop, but also could mean that he's just going to be a hard ass, while Jacob's going to have to be the nice guy when they're in arresting people or whatever. Hopefully they're connecting that to the gambling story that's going on. We'll see where it goes. But it will be nice to see Jacob doing his job rather than just being in the Dupree orbit. And then, I guess lastly, yesterday was more Eva and that storyline where she ended up getting one of Ted's straws for a DNA test, which kind of tied to today's episode as well. Leslie was warning Eva yesterday that she can't trust Ted. I think she sees that even in today's episode that Eva's getting close to Nicole, but also maybe to Ted. She told Eva that trusting Ted was the biggest mistake she ever made. So she continues to try and pull Eva to make sure that Eva stays on the path of their scheming to take down both Ted and Nicole. But Eva does seem to like to work for Nicole. And she helped Nicole write some speech for her award thing today. And by the time she came home to Leslie is hoping to get that information out at Nicole's awards ceremony and really bring down Ted and Nicole publicly. Eva thinks it's too soon. And I think Leslie sees that maybe that is because Eva is starting to get close to Nicole or just likes working for Nicole. And Leslie doesn't like that. Eva gave Leslie the straw for the DNA test, I think hoping that it will take the DNA test a while to come back so that the award ceremony can happen. And they don't have the evidence to come out and say that Ted is Eva's father. But by the end of the episode today, Leslie made a phone call, so she's either going to she needs a favor from someone, so she's either going to speed the DNA test up, or she's going to falsify the DNA test. And if that latter part is the case, then maybe Eva is not really Ted's daughter. I've been hoping this whole time that Eva does end up being Ted's daughter, only because, as I've stated before, it ties Kat and Eva as sisters, which puts layers to their rivalry, which is what I want to see. You can say that maybe they'll think they're sisters for a while and then they end up actually not being sisters. That could add a dynamic too, so I don't completely hate it. The story does continue to move fast though. But with how boring today's episode was, I don't hate it. Because another story needs to really put some more drama out there. Last week, I was needing a break from Dani and happy to have a break from Dani when there was a Dani-less episode. This week, I felt Dani's presence being missed in today's episode. Another problem with today's episode I kind of had. There was this whole running gag for a while on Young and the Restless that they would just put the winters on Wednesdays and have Winter Wednesdays. And you just put all the black people on the Wednesday episode. Because for a long while in most soap operas, Wednesday's episode are usually kind of filler, kind of boring. And that's what today's episode was. But it was ironic that all of the white characters were on today. And thus it ended up being boring. White Wednesdays aren't going to work for me because the characters aren't all giving. Literally all 5 of the main white characters were on today. And Ashley and Derek just do not do it for me. And they're not going to do it for me. There is no chemistry there. And I still don't see the chemistry between Ashley and Andre either. Don't see what Andre sees in Ashley because she's so boring. But also, Andre gave her this kind of collage of photos he took of her. Most of those photos he took of her without her knowing, which is why I said last week that Andre kind of comes off creepy sometimes. But Ashley just accepts those fake pictures as cool, not as creepy. So whatever. Don't like that story. Haven't liked that story. Probably never going to like this love triangle. It's not working. It's definitely the one thing on the show not working. Vanessa also was on today, continuing her kind of affair thing with Diego, sleeping around while Doug continues his gambling problem. Joey, using Doug's friend to bring Doug back to gambling, continues to give Doug chips to make him think that his luck's going to change so that Doug can dig himself a hole. Kind of want the story to move along faster because it's not the most interesting. And most gambling stories on soap operas don't usually work. So the sooner they can get past the gambling aspect of the story and get Doug in debt, probably the better. But also, does Doug ever work? Because he's supposed to work at the hospital, but we've only ever seen him outside of the hospital. So there's that too. That's kind of bothering me, but whatever. I think the only real highlight of Wednesday's episode was actually Martin and Smitty. Martin was being his annoying, borderline abusive self with his husband, Smitty, about giving Smitty all this shit about wanting to go back to work. But we finally got to meet their children, whose names I don't remember. It's like Samantha and Ty, maybe? Tyrell. Don't know what their son's name is, but I'm glad we got to meet them. Yeah, it is Tyrell. And the kids ended up being on Smitty's side because they walked in on Smitty and Martin arguing. And when they found out that Martin was just upset that Smitty wants to go back to work, Martin tried to manipulate them and be like, oh, don't you like when your dad takes you to things? Don't you like when your dad attends your school stuff? And Samantha didn't care, and Tyrell stuck up for Smitty. So Martin lost, and Smitty's going to get his way for now and get his job back as a reporter. We also got to see them actually have a family moment after that, and Martin seems to be over it for now. They need to, we give the actor Martin some shit for not being so great of an actor, because he's a green actor. He's young. Young to the genre, and I think just acting in general. And I also think that the children were better actors than him in the scene. So I'm glad the younger actors and actors can work. But also they just need to add more layers to the Martin character. I think he is coming across very one note as just like this controlling person. And that's kind of all the character is right now. So I hope they can give us more with Martin. Because today was the first time it kind of worked for me. Both Martin and Smitty as a couple, because it finally kissed, for one, on the lips anyway. I mean, it was a little smooch, but a kiss nonetheless. CBS let them kiss on the lips, so that's kind of a big deal in CBS daytime, honestly. And they got a family moment. So they were actually the highlight for me today. And then Martin's having his nightmare again by the end of the episode. We'll find out. I mean, we've all assuming that Martin killed someone, because that's kind of been beat over the head with some of the stuff even Bill said in early episodes. When that will come out, who knows? But I'm assuming Smitty doesn't even know that, so that could add more trouble there. But Smitty and Martin as a couple, there's a lot of problems in that marriage, and we're going to see how it all turns out. Probably not for the best with the way they've been thus far. Overall, though, today's episode was boring, but still solid episodes overall. I kind of wish that if we're going to have Dani-less episodes, like last week I was ready for it, and we got more in the Leslie Eva story last week when Dani wasn't on. So they're doing a good job of making Dani be like this over-the-top, larger-than-life character who drives drama, which is good and all. But then there is a problem when you have Dani-less episodes. They need to time their other stories to have something, not necessarily something major happen, but at least something more dramatic than we got today. Not that I need my soap operas. Like, I don't need my soap operas to be dramatic every single day. But for what they're writing and for what they're trying to do with the whole streaming aspect of the show, it'd be nice if they can time their other stories better. Like, if we would have had the Leslie, Nicole, Ted situation today on a Dani-less episode, I think it would have made today's episode better, rather than having that Monday and then what they had today is what I'm trying to say, I guess. Like, Monday's episode was so jam-packed with stuff, which I think is working in the ratings. So I'm probably wrong with all this nonsense that I'm talking right now. But still, we don't have to be a typical soap opera and have filler Wednesday episodes.